the force that moves mountains. If you want favor with both God and man, and a reputation for good judgment and common sense, then trust the Lord completely. Don't ever trust yourself. In everything you do, put God first, and He will direct you and crown your efforts with success. Proverbs 3:5-6 Living Bible. And let us not get tired of doing what is right, for after a while we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't get discouraged and give up. Galatians 6:9 Living Bible. Faith moves mountains. To him that believeth, all things are possible. Mark 9 Living Bible. The person who does not believe in something and believe in it with all their soul will see little if any success in life. Let nothing undermine your faith in your ultimate success. Hold this tenaciously, vigorously, intensely, and after a while you will see things coming your way. Don't be afraid to think too highly of yourself. If the Creator made you and is not ashamed of the job, certainly you should not be. He pronounced His work good, and you should respect it. Faith increases confidence, carries conviction and multiplies ability. Faith doesn't think or guess. It sees the way out. It is not discouraged or blinded by mountains of difficulties, because it sees through them, sees the goal beyond. There are marvelous utilities, infinite good, and unspeakable beauties in the great eternal intelligence. The unseen world is ready for your use and enjoyment. If we only had sufficient faith to believe we could draw them to ourselves. Every now and then, we are amazed at some youth we knew or read about, starting out all at once and doing some tremendous thing which we did not believe or realized was possible. He may not have had any more ability, or not as much, as those around him, but he had a superb self-faith, which enabled him to dare and do, when the more timid ones, even perhaps, with far superior ability, hesitated, wavered, did not dare to attempt what in reality they were able to do. It is faith that does the impossible. It is faith in God and faith in oneself, a divine self-confidence that makes men gods, whose will must be obeyed. If it were not for wrong thinking, such faith would be the rule in human life instead of the exception, for God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, and of love, and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7 King James Version Bible. Unfortunately, most of us measure ourselves by our weakness instead of by our strength. We estimate ourselves at our worst instead of our best. We seem to think that the vision of ourselves we see in our optimistic, hopeful, uplifted moments is a mere mirage of the imagination, and not our real selves. Additionally, few people realize how much self-faith has to do with achievement. The great majority never seem to think that it is a real creative force. Yet faith is not only a real power, but one of the greatest we know. In fact, men do great things in proportion to the intensity and the persistency of their faith. When Goliath, the great giant of Gath, came to the Israelite camp, with his pretentious boasting, challenging the Israelites to select a man to fight with him, to determine whether they or the Philistines should be conquerors, the Israelites were so terrified that none dared offer to do battle with him. Later, when he returned to repeat his challenge, a youthful David heard his boasting, and took up his challenge. After much pleading with his elders for the privilege, the youth was allowed to go fight the giant. They insisted, however, on putting him in heavy armor, as a protection for his body, and placing a sword in his hand before he went to meet his competitor. But he said to them, I am not used to these things, I cannot fight with these handicaps. These are not my weapons. I have other weapons with which to fight the giant. So he took off all of his armor and went forth, with his faith, with no other weapon than a simple sling and a few pebbles which he took from the brook. When the giant leader of the Philistines, protected from head to foot with armor, armed with mighty weapons, and preceded by his shield-bearer, saw the unarmed and unprotected Israelite youth approaching, he was angry at being so insulted, and said to him, Come to me and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. The undaunted youth answered, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. David did not, like the Philistine, put his faith in armor, in sword, or in a shield, but in the Almighty, and by faith he conquered his mighty competitor. Putting a single stone in his sling, he buried it in the forehead of the giant, who fell face down to the ground. We have all heard or read the story, 1 Samuel 17 Bible. If you want to know what God wants you to do, ask Him, and He will gladly tell you, for He is always ready to give a bountiful supply of wisdom to all who ask Him. He will not resent it. But when you ask Him, be sure that you really expect Him to tell you, for a doubtful mind will be as unsettled as a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind, and every decision you then make will be uncertain, as you turn first this way and then that. If you don't ask with faith, don't expect the Lord to give you any solid answer. James 1:5-8 Living Bible. Faith is the very foundation, the bedrock of achievement. No faith, no achievement. All-absorbing faith, great achievement. Show me a great achiever and I will show you a person of great faith, faith in yourself, in your ability to achieve your goals. Faith has ever been the miracle worker of the ages. It is the connecting link between God and man, it is man's strength, the cornerstone of all his building, all his achieving. The trouble with those of us who are not doing what we can and should do is that we lack faith. We do not believe that we can go into the great within of self and simply and naturally make connection with God, the divine force, with the all-supply, with the power that made us, that power which has created and which upholds the universe and from which we derive our strength. We make this connection through faith, which is our link, and if we could only put it up until it taps the wire which carries omnipotent power, we should feel the thrill of divine life, of inexhaustible strength surging through us. If you do not make this connection, if you lack the divine self-confidence born of faith and omnipotence, in God, you will never be what you long to be. Your prayers will come back to you unanswered, your efforts will bear no fruit, your negative attitude will make it impossible for you to achieve your objective. A negative, doubting mind, a mind saturated with fear of failure, can no more accomplish, create, or produce anything of value than a stone can violate the law of gravitation by flying up in the air. The Creator does not change the law of gravitation because a man walks off the roof of a house, even though he may do it unconsciously, in his sleep. The creative principle, the law of achievement, does not vary any more than the law of gravitation, and you will achieve what you desire, be what you long to be, only when you obey the law of faith. The Creator Himself cannot fulfill your desire in any other way, any more than He can make the sun, contrary to law, turn from its course in the heavens, any more than He could make the world turn about and go in the opposite direction around the sun, when the heavenly bodies are pulling it the other way. There is all the difference in the world between the power of the person who believes in his destiny, who has unquestioned faith in his mission, who believes that he is a part of the divine plan, that he is in the current which runs upward, Godward, and the one who does not have this faith. The one is equipped for a victorious life, the other is headed toward defeat. It is always the men and the women with a overwhelming faith, a colossal self-confidence, that do the great deeds, accomplish the impossible. Those who do not take much stock in themselves, who have only a sort of milk and water purpose, who do not believe that they were intended to do anything in particular, never have been and never will be the doers in the world. Achievement is first mental. It begins in the mind. There is no philosophy, no power in the universe that can help you to do a thing when you think you can't do it. More people make wrecks of their lives from lack of faith in themselves than from any other cause. Before we can win out in life, we must believe in our power to win. We must be confident in our expectations of success, vigorous in our self-faith. We must believe in ourselves and the thing we are doing without reserve, with all our hearts. So you see, it isn't enough just to have faith. You must also do good to prove that you have it. Faith that doesn't show itself by good works is no faith at all, it is dead and useless. James 2:17 Living Bible. And remember, it is a message to obey, not just to listen to. So don't fool yourselves. For if a person just listens and doesn't obey, he is like a man looking at his face in a mirror. As soon as he walks away, he can't see himself anymore or remember what he looks like. But if anyone keeps looking steadily into God's law for free men, he will not only remember it but he will do what it says, and God will greatly bless him in everything he does. James 1:22-25 Living Bible.